Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 9 of Blue Lock, and I don't feel good about this. Nope, no sorry, Bob. I do not feel great about this episode because we, on the one hand, we just met Reo and Nagi. Is it Reo? Is it Reo? People have told me it's Reo, but I want to say Reo. So y'all have to forgive me because if I say Reo in accident instead of Reo, just roll with it. Know that I know what I'm supposed to say, but my mouth is not agreeing, right? And so we just met Reo and Nagi, and they're like instant ship, just christen it, let it go, sugar daddy and his little marshmallow. I'm all here for it. But they're also with Zantetsu, and their team's freaking good. And our ragtag of boys are the most underdogs of underdogs. They're barely scraping it together. They just barely pulled off the draw against Team W, and that was thanks to Chigiri. So just coming out of nowhere and surprising them. So yeah, I don't know what to think, but I'm very, very concerned. And my big deal is that, you know, if Team Z is going to win, and we're going to go by the little shonen sports anime trope of, oh, they'll win, but it's going to get real dark before the dawn. My fear is that it's going to get real bad this episode, and I'm not ready for that. No, I'm not ready for that at all. No, sir, not one bit. But I guess we're going to have to cross that bridge when we get to it, aren't we? So I've got some comments I want to talk about before we dive into this. Nagi's VA plays Haru from Free. Seems legit. Also plays Mojito. So, what can we do with that? Reo's voice actor is the same as Megumi, Ash, Kyo from Fruits Basket, Koshu from Ace of the Diamond. Haha! It's Uchida! And I'm like, oh my god, yes! I love him as a voice actor. Amazing. Moon was giving all the information about the voice actors as soon as I said I'd watch this episode. Geen notes that I was asking how tall Ego was, because Ego's always hunched over and you can't really get a good gauge on his height. And all Geen told me was that Ego is 6'3". The way that his posture is in the episode, I thought he was like 5'8", and when she said 6'3", I was like, wait a minute. I do find myself liking tall men, so I'm like, oh, Ego's already fitting that bill. What are we going to do with this, right? He's a smart, tall man. Henri, get on this. Climb him like a tree. Girl, he's probably not going to do much as long as you just tell him that you'll do all the work. But what fun would that be, right? What fun would that be? But I thought that was very interesting. Also, Geen notes that I was questioning like what the additional time was, and Geen very succinctly said that the added time in soccer is basically all of the out of bounds, all the fouls, all the time it takes to get the ball recentered and start back up. Because apparently the clock never stops in soccer. And so in the first half, all those little extra added on things that eat up time in the first half, apparently that becomes added time. And when the second half is over, they add it on to the end. So I think that's kind of cool. I don't know anything about soccer, so I was like, oh, that's neat. I like that. So that's kind of good to know. Nice to know. But yeah, so that's where that comes from. And then that's why the little extra clips at the end of the episodes are called added time. Additional time. Makes sense now. Now I get it. Now I gotcha. So thank you, Geen. And then finally, Wim talks about how Reo in the Japanese translation is a trope when they're introduced with Nagi during the last episode. It's the trope of Reo is the wife who barged in. And it's a Japanese trope where basically an attractive woman treats them or invites themselves into a main character's life. And because it's basically without consent, but a relationship develops because of it. And that's essentially what's happened with Reo and Nagi. Reo kind of barged into Nagi's life, inserted themselves in, do with that what you will, and then basically was like, oh, hey, I'm here, I'm gonna be here forever, and they developed a relationship. Now, whether you ship them or not, that's up to you. I personally am all aboard the ship. I've already booked my cruise. I've got my lei ready for me. My towel is wrapped up in the shape of a dog. I'm doing great. But yeah, the idea that Reo is the wife is, you know, do with that what you will. So yeah, I'm all about it. Wim also talks about the idea that Chigiri, I like this idea of Chigiri's rebirth in episode 7, that it's the idea of ego being tied to soccer being a part of themselves and having faith in their current self versus their previous invincible self. And a couple of us were talking about, is it good for Chigiri to connect soccer to their very core identity? I think that in other series that would be looked at as a bad thing, as something that like, well, what if something happens and, you can't do soccer anymore? You're going to fall apart because it's not connected to you. I think that it's treated in a positive in Blue Lock, where it's like, no, Chigiri's whole ordeal is that they are psychologically psyching themselves out, afraid to move forward in life and afraid to do the things that they love and afraid to be themselves because they're afraid that's going to be taken away from them. But life's too short to worry about that. If they fail at this Blue Lock, then you're never going to get a chance anyway. So you might as well go all out, go your all. And I think the fact that this injury is the injury's healed. They've done the physical therapy. It's healed. It's just more psychological now with Chigiri. I think that helps make it okay for Chigiri to be okay with going all out, right? So I like that a lot. And then apparently Zantetsu's voice actor is the same as Hattori Soma, which is one of my favorite Somas. So I like that from Fruits Basket. Also the range, Fat Gum, but also Daisho from Haikyuu. What? And then also is Miri's biological father in Buddy Daddies. I was like, what? So that voice actor has all the range. I was like, what a bizarre resume. So yeah, I thought those comments were really, really good. I really have liked the last several episodes. Reo and Nagi, I am all for. Like, put them in a little boat, ship them to me. I will take care of them. But yeah, you know that typically these scenarios are, it's going to get real bad before it gets decent. I'm afraid for this episode. Very much so. But yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see, aren't we? We're just going to have to wait and see. So we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive right into episode 9 of Blue Lock and see what we get. And we're going to start that. Oh, wait. Oh, my God. What am I doing with my life? This is the second time it's happened because I've been so excited that I've not wanted to do it. But y'all, I am forgetting a very important component that must take place before we start the Blue Lock episode. And that is, well, see for yourself. I need to dust in here. Oh, hi, it's Romania Black. And when I'm not watching Blue Lock or seeing Isagi and his team awaken, I decide to watch my favorite sports anime of all, alongside my dog Huckleberry here. You may be asking, what is your favorite sports anime? Why, it's Ace of the Diamond. Yes, this baseball anime just has it all. Nakama, hardships, and even the awakening of characters within its own team. So when you're done watching Blue Lock and seeing that awakening happen, go find yourself the best sports anime there is and give it a watch too. And start Ace of the Diamond today. Now, back to the reaction. This is the second time that this has happened that I've nearly forgotten the Ace of the Diamond ad. And I think it's just because I'm so excited. I think it's because I'm so excited for this episode and to see what's going to be happening that, oh, y'all, it's hard, but I'm going to make sure I don't forget it for next time. But, okay, now I'm being serious. We're going to start episode 9 of Blue Lock. I was all ready to go. We're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this. Well, man, Blue Lock just continues to completely prove me wrong. So that's fun. I'm all for that. I actually like being surprised and being proven wrong by shows because then it makes it exciting and fun. You're like, what the heck's gonna happen? And yeah, so awakening. When I saw the title of this episode, I thought, okay, it's either gonna be awakening in a sense that Team Z is going to awaken, or Isagi is going to awaken some powers, or in this case it's everybody but Isagi on Team Z, but they're going to save the best for last, right? Surely they are. Maybe they won't. Who knows? We'll talk about it. But I thought it was either going to be that, or I thought like Nagi was going to like awaken and it was going to reveal that he's actually a terrifying monster that is just like on 0% 90% of the time, and then he's like and does that. Still could happen. still could happen. I'm very curious, right? Because right now, the way that Nagi is like Reo comes from a team that wasn't good. Reo comes from a soccer team that was weak. So Reo's desperation and his complete like obsession with soccer and doing well, he's been on a shitty team before. So he knows exactly what it's like to lose. And so that kind of further drives him and makes him determined. And since he's found Nagi, which is like his holy grail, he's just like, oh, well, we can't lose as long as we have you. And we'll talk about that in this episode. But Nagi doesn't seem to understand what losing is. And again, it's like we've seen characters that are antagonists in other sports anime kind of have this same character type about them, but they're usually very loud, arrogant, or loud and abrasive or cocky characters. Nagi's not cocky at all. Nagi's 5 steps away from taking a nap is what he is. He's just there like, can I go now? Like, he's just kind of just doing it to appease Reo. You know, he's like, I got a sugar daddy. I got to be supported. I guess I'll score some goals for you. And Reo kind of has almost like the Akashi mindset of you have to score 5 goals per game. And Nagi's like, do I have to? It's so bizarre. It's Kuroko's basketball spoilers for like 10 seconds. So just bear witness to that. But it's kind of like Reo and Nagi are alters of Akashi, and like you have Reo who's like the one version of Akashi that's just like, you have to score so many goals in this round, we have to be on all the time, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the other version of Akashi that's like, I don't really care, but I mean, what's losing? It's like his personality is split into different splinters, and like it's Team V. But end of Kuroko spoilers. But yeah, it's fascinating because Nagi just doesn't seem to care, and I don't think Nagi's gonna necessarily, I think he's either going to awaken when he realizes they're about to lose, and that's going to like bring something up within him, or they are going to lose this game and Team Z is going to win, and then Nagi's going to be like, well, what do you mean we lost? What's that about? And that's going to cause him to awaken, right? Which could very well be the case. I could actually see that now, that Nagi has to experience a loss before he gets super, super competitive. Right? Because that's kind of thing. Nagi is so freakishly talented, but he only uses like a pinky's worth. And I think that until he loses a game and gets to feel what that feeling is like, then it's not going to spur him to like be more competitive. Right? And so I feel like that's going to happen. And then obviously Team V is going to make it to the next stage. And that's when his character is going to like bump up and advance. So we'll see, right? We'll see. We'll just see how that goes. Who knows? Who knows how that's going to go? I don't know. But let's talk about this episode. I didn't bring Whiteboard Kun out because there wasn't really a lot of strategizing things worth saying in there. What's interesting is we talk about Reo. Reo's like, the goal is just like I envisioned it. Reo is kind of like, I feel in some regards, similar to Isagi in what his like pathway is on the team. Like, Reo's naturally talented. Reo is really talented. He's really good at soccer. They've only been playing together for 6 months. And they're that good, right? So I feel like Reo is a prodigy. He's a natural born talent. And we're going to talk about prodigies in this episode because the whole thing of genius keeps bringing up. I think Nagi's just like, genius, what's a genius? Here's the thing. I think Reo is a genius because he knows all the strategies. He knows how to think things up. He knows how to do things. I don't believe that Nagi is necessarily a genius. He's just a natural prodigy talent. I don't know. It depends on what your version of genius is in this scenario. If they're referring to geniuses that are just like, I don't know. I feel like Haikyuu does this a lot too, where it's like, oh, who's a genius and who's not. For example, a lot of people think that Oikawa in Haikyuu is a genius. He just works really freakishly hard, and he's talented enough, but he works really hard and has had to like work his way up to get there. Whereas someone kind of like Ushijima in Haikyuu is just like God-given talent, and he's like, I don't really have to try, it just happens. You know, I feel like Nagi is more like Ushijima in that Nagi is very talented just naturally, and he's blessed with this talent, but he's not really a genius. He doesn't really try. He's just like there being like, okay, I guess this works. Whereas Reo, I think, is more of the genius because he has to think of all the scenarios in which to get the ball to Nagi or to Zantetsu or whatever. And Reo seems to pride himself in at what a strategist he is, whereas Nagi's like, if you just give me the ball, I'll score or whatever. And I guess maybe you could call that a genius. When I think of genius, I think of intelligence, and I think of more like strategic prowess. But I know in sports anime, genius and tensai means something different. So I do understand that there's a discrepancy there, right? And then poor Zantetsu, though. But there's kind of a range, right? And now I'm regretting not bringing White Boy Kun out. But there's kind of a range. You have Reo, who is more like the strategic planner. He's kind of a tensai in that regard. Then you have Nagi, who's kind of in the middle, where he's naturally talented, easy to learn. Maybe that's what makes him a genius. He's easy to learn, easy to adapt, easy to apply what is given to him. Then you have Zantetsu, who's not really a strategist at all. Poor boy. Is he literate? Is he at a 3rd grade reading level? We don't know. We still love him anyway. Bless his little macaroni heart. Zantetsu's like, am I right? Did I say everything right? And the fact that his glasses are fake is really funny to me, because they don't make fun of him for it. They're like, your glasses are fake. Why are you trying to look smart? But he does look smart. He looks like a lawyer. And then you find out that no, he's like, Mama always said that soccer is as soccer does. I'm not saying Zantetsu is Forrest Gump, but they kind of make him out to be in this episode. But you feel bad for him, but he's very much not a prodigy. Zantetsu's just naturally talented. So I feel like there's a bigger, broader spectrum, but I do think there's a difference between those who are naturally talented with God-given athletic ability, and I guess they're the geniuses, versus what Isagi is, who is just your average guy, your average Joe. You're just Joe Blow. Every man is Isagi. Now, he has an amazing weapon if he can figure out how to use it, but it's not something that's just like, oh, you're born to score goals. It's something he's going to have to really work at. I feel like Isagi relates more to Oikawa, and Nagi is more to Ushijima, which again, they're great foils. Ushijima and Oikawa and Haikyuu are great foils for each other, and I feel like both Nagi and Isagi will be great foils for each other by the end of this game. We'll see. We'll see how that goes, right? I did notice that, like, every time we got, like, close to the numbers that are on their shoulders, I'm like, man, if Team Z wins this one, the numbers are going to all change, because they'll still be the bottom team. Oh my God, they will be. Even if Team Z wins this game and manages to make it into the top 2 teams alongside Team V, they're still going to be the bottom team. They're just slowly narrowing it down. They're like that kid in dodgeball that is me. If I'm playing a game of dodgeball, I'm like off to the sidelines. You'll never see me until the end of the game, and I'm like the last one. And they're like, how'd she get to be the last one? I'm like, because I avoided everything until this moment. Like, oh my God. But yeah, so Reo says 5 more goals after he's like 6 goals and you can stop. And then Nagi's like, what about 4? He's like, how about we compromise? And meanwhile, Isagi is trying to be like, Isagi is amazingly a big overthinker, which is something that I feel you sometimes see in sports anime, sometimes don't with the main protagonist. It depends on their archetype and their personalities. But Isagi is an overthinker, which he has an ability that if he thinks it right is going to be very effective, I feel. But he is overthinking it right now. He is just being like, he's like, well, that's how this play works, and that's how that play works. And if you get inside your own head too much, if you overthink it, if you don't just have fun, then you're going to lose, because you're going to dig yourself into a pit of despair. And I was so happy that Bachira this episode was just a goat. Bachira was amazing. He's going to be on the thumbnail. It's got to happen. But I just love that Bachira was like, this is our last game potentially. We got to go and just live it up. Do the best we can. Push our limits. And then see what happens. And that's so true. I feel like a lot of times that when you play a sport or you compete on a competitive team, you get inside your head so much and you get so worried that this could be the last time you play, or that you have to make everything count perfectly, that you make simple mistakes. And if you just go into every competition and you say, I'm going to treat this like it's my last performance, but in the best way, and just do the best I can and push myself to the limits and beyond, then you have no regrets, right? And that's kind of Bachira's deal. Bachira's like, they scored some cool shots. they made some special goals, but that just means we have to score more special goals. And Isagi's like, what is this revelation? what is this Confucius-like revelation? So let's go back through this episode here. So yeah, Isagi like breaks down. I tell you though, if both teams make it past, here's my thought. My thought is for this, to make it to round 2 of Blue Lock, I'm curious if they're going to switch all the teams up. If the Ego is going to take them, the 2 teams that are remaining, and take the other, like the 10 teams that are left, the 10 teams all together, right? Because there's going to be 5 and 2 teams left from each one, and then 3. So taking all the remaining players, and I could see, what if Ego splits them all into various groups, right? What if he took like the strongest from each group and put it in with other groups and mixed them all up? So what could happen is that even though Isagi and his team advance to the next round, they could still get split up and put into new teams. The only reason I bring that up is I think it would be really cool if Isagi and Nagi got placed onto a team together. What if Nagi and Reo get split up? I don't want that because they're like a ship, right? They're like a pair. But what if Reo and Nagi do get split up? What if Ego's like, yeah, it's cool that you guys play together and you play really, really well together, but in the real world, in, you know, a national competition, you may not be on the same team. You don't know how that's going to work. So he's like, you need to learn to play by yourselves and see if you guys are capable of standing on your own 2 feet by yourselves, or if you're just a duo that isn't going to last or hold water if you're split up. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think Ego's going to split everybody up in the second round into new teams, and they're going to have to play each other, which would be crazy, but I would understand it. But I really kind of want Nagi and Isagi to be on the same team, because I think that Isagi, if he learns how to use his weapon of spatial awareness to place Nagi like a chess piece in the right position, then they would be a deadly combination. But we'll just have to wait and see, right? Also, so far, Nagi has not had the glowy eyes. Like, his eyes are just kind of like a bland olive green, whereas we've seen Isagi and Chigiri and Kunigami and Bachira all have the glowing eyes that are their hair color, right? I mean, but that would mean that Nagi's eyes would turn white and he'd look like Storm from X-Men. So maybe that's a thing. And so, yeah, is this the monster we're up against? Like, Isagi's like, oh, Nagi's absolutely insane. And it's like, yeah, kind of. So, yeah, I was fully convinced that this episode was going to go really bad. And it does for a little while. But then Bachira steps in and is a badass. And they tie up the game. I'm like, oh, my God. But we only have 30 minutes left. So we're at least going into all of next episode to finish out the game. If not, going into episode 11. Which would make sense if we're going to round out, you know, if this is split into 2 cores, if we're going to round out the first core with however this game ends, that may be the case, right? And so, yeah, so Isagi's like, we just have to do what we know now. We just have to go. I like there's a character on Team V's team that looks like Bokuto from IQ. It's pretty funny. But, yeah, so what they try to do is just try to do what they know. And it doesn't exactly work out. I really love, like, the mismatched lazy eye that Reo has when he's like, Bachira gets kind of a crazy lazy eye in this too, but it's very effective. It makes them look kind of menacing and insane. But yeah, Reo and them know how good they are. And the problem is, it's not just Nagi that's the threat. Zantetsu is as well. So if you stop Nagi, well then they could just target Zantetsu as well. And so, man, Isagi goes through the ringer in this. Isagi, like, starts to doubt himself. He starts to be, like, doom and gloom and despair. I like that Kunigami, when Raichi confronts him, like, keeps his cool. He's like, hey, let's just keep doing what we're doing. Like, stop being a baka. Raichi was hit or miss for me this episode. Sometimes when he'd get really, really worked up and angry, I'd be like, calm down, Raichi. It's not the end of the world yet. And then sometimes Raichi had those moments against Reo, which we'll talk about, that I was like, oh, okay, good, you're good. Raichi is a work in progress with me, right? But Kunigami, I love that Kunigami is like this anchor. He's this constant force and presence of calmness and like lawful good sereneness. And he can kind of do well to bounce off Isagi's first, because Isagi gets a little bit, Isagi doesn't become a diva, but Isagi gets a little bit impatient and like like he gets anxiety real easily. Isagi does as a character, and Kunigami's a nice anchor for him. He also like is really receptive of Bachira's energy. And then with Chigiri, well, y'all ship them, but again, we haven't seen a lot with Kunigami and Chigiri on the field yet. Now, poor monk boy, our Connie Jr. that kept saying Namusan, that kept saying never give up. You would think that would get annoying after a while, but it was fine. There were a few moments I was like, okay, down boy, but then you realize that he's just extremely freaked out, and this is like his defense mechanism, and you're like, okay, well, it's fine. It's all right. But yeah, so they all decide to defend against Reo, and then of course Zantetsu's ability is very fast acceleration. But what I like about this is at the beginning of the episode, Isagi is like very doom and gloom, and he's seeing everything from a very negative perspective. As soon as Zantetsu outruns Chigiri the first time, he's like, oh my god, someone's faster than Chigiri. Well, if you only think about it in that initial second and on a surface level, yes, it would appear that's the case. However, if you're like Chigiri and you're trying to move forward with your talents and evolve your skills, then as you start to like analyze your enemy and realize it, you're like, oh no, he's not necessarily faster than me. He just has a faster like initial sprint, speed. But in a long range competition, I'm going to be the one that can come out on top. So it's really the matter of, do you freak out when you first start to lose and it all spirals downhill? Or do you do like Bachira and take the lemons that you're given and make damn lemonade and make some beehive honey and just go at it? Because that's literally what Bachira does. Bachira is not ready to give up. Isagi's used to like, I'm sure his team messing up and being like, oh crap, we can't free them. And then Bachira's just like, I'm not going to have that. I like that Zantetsu asks, what does territory mean? And it's like, are you literate, sir? How'd you make it to high school? Did they let you in high school? What's going on? What is happening? Right? What is going on? Yeah, because he asks, what is a territory? And then Reo's like, oh, wearing fake glasses won't make you smart, I love the idea that they call him Baka Zantetsu, Zantetsu Baka. Like, they call him stupid Zantetsu, but they say it as like a term of endearment, and that's how Zantetsu takes it. I'm sure they told him, they're like, we only tell you this because you're our friend. And he's like, okay. But then when the other team starts calling him stupid, he's like, why are they mocking me? They're not my friends. I'm like, oh, Zantetsu's kind of precious. I'm like, bless his little heart. And then I also like that Reo, his bangs are uneven. They're not the same. They're asymmetrical. I'm like, you would think somebody that's as much of a control freak seemingly as Reo is would be a little bit more symmetrical, but no. He's like Death the Kid. Kind of with his hair. And then, yeah, and so Sagi thinks that everything's hopeless. And it all starts to get doom and gloom. And that's what I thought this episode was going to be, was just like the end of it. But no. Bachira's like, I'm just heating up. We're just getting started. All right? We didn't come all this way. We didn't make it to the final round for us to get beaten like this. No, siree. And I'm like, Bachira was MVP of this episode, and I loved it. I was like Kunigami and Chigiri had their moments, sure, but Bachira was like the one that kicked off the awakening, the domino effect. And I love that Bachira's like, you're not scared, are you, Isagi? Are you the boo that I thought you were? Are we a relationship like I thought we were? But he's just like, tells Isagi this is fun. He's like, don't tell me you're scared. He's like, we have to be super special too. That's just how this goes. If we're going to be the best strikers, we just have to take it on. He's like, come on. I love his eyes are just glowing. He's like, come on, now's not the time to worry about that. Quit overthinking things. Treat this like it's your last game, and let's just play and have fun and do the damn thing. And I'm like, I love that. I love what Bachira does. It's amazing. And him just like motivating the team. And it's just like, no, you just have to push past your limits. The monster inside of me is saying we should be excited, not scared when we're in a desperate situation. Because, yeah, when you're pushed up against the wall, it's fight or flight, right? And if you have nowhere to fly, then you either fight or you die. And so Bachira's like, no, this is a chance for us to evolve and to push ourselves beyond our limits and to learn new things about ourselves. Like, this is not... I like that the monster's treated like a motivational coach almost in this episode. It's really good. And then, yeah, Bachira just goes all out. I like that we have in the OP, we have Chigiri versus Zantetsu. We have Reo versus Bachira, which has happened so far. We haven't really seen Isagi versus Nagi. And then Kunigami was against Baro, so don't know how that works out. But yeah, Reo's like, all right, bring it on. And Bachira's like, can do. We haven't really seen, the thing about it is we've seen Bachira and the others with the crazy eyes. We've not really seen, like, we haven't seen Reo or Nagi or Zantetsu with the crazy eyes at all. They've looked fairly normal. Like, they're not feral beasts yet. I think they're going to be by the end of this game. I think they are going to be to try to score this. Look at the other team, though. Team V has, like, they have, like, basically a carbon copy of Connie, only he has facial hair, like a chin strap. Then we have Becky with the bad hair. It's like Becky with the good hair, only it's, like, parted the other way. Then you have literally, like, Thor or Thorfinn from Vinland Saga just standing off there in the wings. What is this team? They don't matter. It's just mainly the three that matter. And then the goalie. And they also have a guy that looks like Bokudo. He's like, we're here to be the best striker in the world. If I can't beat you, that means I'm only at that level as a striker. I love it. He's like, what have I got to lose? Let's go. And then Isagi's like, you look so happy playing soccer. If this is going to be my last game, then no, I can leave the despair for when I've lost. I love it. It's great. And he just got it over. And they scored the goal. He's like, see, it's getting fun now. And he looks over at he looks over at Isagi, and Isagi has like the creepiest smile on his face. I swear, like, it's supposed to be whenever they look happy or whenever they're like their little inner monsters are like doing well or whatever, they're supposed to look like happy and like cutesy, but instead it's the creepiest damn thing ever, and I don't know what to make of it. I'm just like, oh god. And it's just like, it's treated like a villain moment almost. They have like the crazy, like super sketchy lines and all that, and what am I supposed to do with this? And I love that Reo and Nagi and Zantetsu are like, well, that's interesting. What's going on? Again, they don't seem to have like the blue lock craziness to them, which is fascinating to me. I'm wondering if Nagi and them are going to get it by the end, though. And that look that Bachira gives, where they're like, he's a problem. Bachira's just like, he gives kind of the Reo lazy eye in that moment. Oh, love it. The Bachira Isagi shipping, give me it. And then they give them all a big hug, and Bachira's like, I love Kunigami head pats, where he's like, surpassing your limit doesn't mean you're being reckless, but you did real good, kid. It's so cute. I was like, yes, please. Love this. And he's like, his dribbling is his weapon, so he just evolved it. So that's all we've got to do. We've just got, now we know the strategies we've been using aren't going to work, so we just got to evolve our weapons and experiment and try and see what hits, right? And I love that Bachira is like, yeah, sure. He's like, yeah, sure, I've been just... Bachira, here's the thing. I don't feel like Bachira was ever worried about the game or the strategy or anything, because he's not been paying attention to the strategy. This entire series, he has been sleeping through every team strategy meeting, and then he wakes up and he's like, I'm gonna play soccer. Okay, good, right? Like, he is not somebody that strategizes. He just plays the damn thing and that's it, right? But it's so good. It cracks me up. I tried all this stuff because I was inspired, and I just happened to succeed. And Kunigami's like, so basically we gotta try new games and evolve or we'll lose. And it's like, yes, that is quite obvious. And they have 65 minutes. So yeah. And Reo's like, well, look at them all hyped up. But that's him being mad. He's kind of mad. He's like, they haven't given up yet. They're in despair. And Zantetsu's like, are you mad about something? And he says, Nagi and I took up soccer, our record spotless from 6 months ago, and I don't want to stain on it. And they're like, 6 months ago? You mean you just started playing like now? What? Yeah, that's insane. They've not lost a game in 6 months since they started. What? And they're all like, are we serious? And so Isagi makes the very smart decision to have Raichi mark Reo, which Raichi's not happy about because he says it's not sexy soccer, right? Reo's not his type, and so he can't do sexy soccer around Reo, but Raichi is also really annoying. And so, because he's really annoying, he's very persistent. And so he's not going to give up getting on Reo, and that's what makes Reo mad. But damn, Reo got violent. Like him elbowing Raichi in the neck. That's not cool. Nobody needs that. And I like that when Isagi leaves, he basically tries to like give Raichi like an out. He's like, well, with your physique, we can pincer him. And Raichi's like, I know that's a compliment, but what about my sexy soccer? And meanwhile, Lemon is like, anything to help me. I think the prop should go to Lemon too, because Lemon tries so hard. He's just doing his best he can as a goalie, but he's like, please help me. Any way you all can would be appreciated. And so he's like, fine, I'll do it. And so, yeah, Reo kind of initiates the taunting, saying grudge-bearing types aren't popular with the ladies, shark teeth. And then it's like, and he's like, can it? And he's like, I'm not going to end my soccer career with me being a defender in a game like this. I love it. And he's just like, if anybody's persistent and not going to give up, it is literally Raichi. Huckleberry is the Raichi of Blue Lock. Literally, he is. But yeah, I kind of love it. And he really gets on Reo's nerves after this, right? So yeah, so we've got our clear matchups. We have Zantetsu. We have Reo and Raichi. Nagi is just doing whatever he damn well pleases. When he does like the backward shot, oh my god, that was insane. But then yeah, I'm gonna get his name right on this. Yes, Igarashi, like using his head to stop that ball. Oh my god. And then Bachira's like, I'm not the only one fighting. I love that whenever Reo gets confronted by Bachira, he's like, well, you're not going to use the same trick twice. And he's like, no, I'm not. Like, I love Reo getting confronted by Bachira. It's great. And then Kunigami, he's like, I've got to keep going. And I love that Isagi, again, Isagi looks like a freaking madman when he's like, aren't you going to be a superhero? I was like, oh my god, they're screamed the way he screams it. But yeah, he basically like spurs Kunigami on in that moment. And Kunigami's like, I can make the shot. And he believes in himself. And it works. There's no spin and it gets through. It was amazing. So yeah, I love it. I feel like we don't get, everybody in the episode doesn't really get a spotlight. I love that they keep going back to Cone, who's just in the background, like just flipping off the camera. And Isagi's like, your ego can only evolve as an extension of what you're capable now. Now, Nagi does say something to him that is a little bit downgrading in that moment to him. And it's the concept that his ego is not, he's inefficient. His ego is not capable of evolving the way that it needs to for them to win the game. At least that's the impression that Isagi gets after his random banter with Nagi. Nagi surprisingly talks a while to Isagi. Like, that's the most he's talked to anybody in this entire damn series, has been just to tell him how inefficient he's. Like, why are you still playing? I would give up if I were you. What's the point of you? Why are you doing this? What's up with you? And I'm trying to think, there's another character from another series that Nagi reminds me so much of now in that, and I can't think of who it is. There's a character in Haikyuu. There's a character in Kroger's Basketball. There's a character that basically chides the main character, saying they're not good enough or they're inefficient, and I can't think of who they are. It'll come to me, but I'm sure if you have any ideas in the comments down below of what character I'm thinking of, then you can tell me too. So yeah, Isagi's like, what can I do? What's in my arsenal? I have spatial awareness, but what can I do with it? He's like, I want to try out my new version of myself. Everybody else is evolving. I want it on it too. I want my Digimon to evolve too. And then Lemon's like, let's give more than 100% in the second half. Don't let them near me. I just feel like in a comedy, it would be like Lemon being like on the front lines going, I don't want anybody near me to score. Please and thank you. Also, I think it's well worth noting that Chigiri has his leg stuck out in the locker room like he's stretching it out. Good to note. Meanwhile, Reo and Zantetsu are, I like that both, at first, whenever Raichi was like, oh, we're going to win this, I was like, don't jinx the team again. You've already done it so many times. But then the next second, Reo says, well, we're going to win this. And I'm like, okay, well, they're both jinxing themselves. Fine. So yeah, so we have Nagi off to the side while Reo and Zantetsu like strategize, which is hilarious to me because you have like in Crocus Basketball, you have Hyuga in, you also have Midorima. You also have like the characters with the glasses are usually like the strategy characters. Zantetsu's just there. He's like Brick from Anchorman. He's like loud noises. Oh my god, Zantetsu is the Brick of the gang. He's just like, where'd you get a hand grenade, Zantetsu? I don't know. Like that's just, he just sits there. He doesn't have anything really to contribute. But he's like, all he says is that redhead called me stupid even though he doesn't know me. He's going down. And he's like, that's the spirit, stupid Zantetsu. Oh my god, Zantetsu is Brick. He's Brick from Anchorman. I can't. That's it. He loves Lamp. Zantetsu loves Lamp. That's all we can say. But yeah. And so Nagi, meanwhile, is just sitting there like, I don't know, whatever. He's like, are we okay, Nagi? And Nagi's like, sure. I'm just playing because I have nothing else to do and because you're my sugar daddy. I want Nagi to gain an appreciation of the sport. I want Nagi to become like Murasaki Bara in Crocos and get an appreciation for soccer. And I feel like if they lose this game, that could happen, and that will be the best thing. Can't help but think the ego maybe orchestrated this game so that these two teams could face off because they're the ones that need the most evolution. I feel like it's not... I feel like maybe Team V's evolution is not in their technique or abilities, but in their mindset about soccer. And because right now, Reo and Nagi are they're just playing soccer for funsies, and they don't really consider it like something. It's like, would they be as dedicated to a national team as the others? I don't know. I feel like Isagi obviously wants to go all the way. Bachira and Chigiri and Kunigami want to go all the way, and most of Team Z do to a big degree. And I think they can see themselves all going to that level and playing it at the top of their game. But I would wonder, based on how they are now, if Nagi and Reo would really give it their all on a national scale, or if they'd just be goofing off. Right? I don't know. And I'm not saying that they're goofing off now and not treating it seriously, but I don't know if they have the same dedication level as some of the others towards soccer. At least Nagi. I'm not so sure. But they might after this game. I don't know. So yeah, I love the idea that Gein's like, who cares? I'm going to shoot anyway. And he got so close if Zantetsu hadn't blocked it. And so then, yeah, they all are trying to figure out what exactly to do. And then poor Isagi is just getting in the way. He's like, what can I do? And that's when Nagi shows up and said, you were so full of yourself, so why didn't you shoot? And I'm like, I don't know that Isagi was full of himself, but he was overthinking. It's curious that Nagi just picks a fight with him right now. And then he says, you're so inefficient. And he's like, why don't you just give up? Why are you still coming at us? Are you stupid? I don't get it. If my talents were at your level, I would have quit by now. So tell me, what motivates you so much? And so, yeah, and Isagi doesn't really have an answer for him. He just said, shut up, genius. It's like, oh my God. He's like, you wouldn't understand. I'm about to get to the good part. I freaking love it. I love that Isagi's like, I'm getting ready. I'm in the middle of my monologue, damn it. It's great. It's great. I was like, oh my God. Just that face. Like, the expressions in this series are so extreme. And Nagi's like, what's up with him? What's up with that creature? Meanwhile, Raichi's not letting Reo go anywhere. Reo's getting pissed. He's like, are you my stalker or what? And he's like, I'm going to demolish you. He's like, I'll just show you how much of a stalker I can be. Like, Raichi is someone that will not back down. Meanwhile, we have Henri and Ego, and they're checking out the match like you do. They've already checked the other channels to see what's going on. He's like, yes, it's intense. He's like, it's win or lose, life or death. I love Henri's outfit, by the way. Love the plaid. It's like every time a line is crossed, a striker is forced to awaken. He's just sitting there like, yes. Like, speaking from experience, right? I'm sure he's experienced this exact thing. He's like, that's what I wanted to see. He says, Henri-chan, do you know what it means to awaken? Now, I do love that Henri kind of has this Super Saiyan response. That's really cute. I love it. He calls her a baka, but I'm like, Ego. Come on, Ego. She says, is it like going from ordinary to extraordinary? Is it that? Well, we're not going to say the full word because it could be copyright infringement. And he says, no, you're way off. And she's like, excuse me. He says, it's an analogy made by someone who's never tasted success. And she's like, well, silly. I love it. He says, awakening is like a jigsaw puzzle with your thoughts and experiences. I feel like Ego relates a lot to Isagi. Ego's explanation in this moment is very akin to Isagi. So I feel like they're very kindred spirits. Also, love the Blue Lock mug. The Blue Lock coffee mug is amazing. And he talks about how when you have an extreme situation, you have to do a lot of trial and error in order to get the win. And that's when the pieces start to fall into place and a new Ego blooms. It's like just Ego plants himself and he blooms over and over again. And so we've seen like the experiences that bought this. Chigiri's probably a really good example in this episode. Chigiri uses their experiences and their knowledge of themselves to assess the situation, see what their weapon can do, and then the pieces all fall into place and they get this new Ego sense of like, oh, I can do this. I can succeed. And that is what enables them to make the move that works out so well in this episode. And so meanwhile, as Ego's talking about this, Isagi's trying to figure out, he's like, I'm inefficient. He's like, well, then what can I do? He's like, I was thinking about whether to shoot, and then I gave them time to block my shot. He's like, my spatial awareness should let me get into a position where I can shoot. I shouldn't be overthinking this. But if I don't shoot, then nothing's going to happen. So it's like, I need to cut out the waste. Yeah. So meanwhile, Reo's trying to do something and Raichi's not letting him go. And he says, what's the matter? Are you going to report me to the police? And Reo's like, I wish he would stop. Does he ever get tired? And it's like, no. And he's like, yeah, you're good, but I'm starting to see how to stop you. I just have to make sure that you don't go for Nagi. And that's when Reo's like, excuse me? Like, are you, like, he's like, you love the boy with the white hair. And Reo's like, how dare you? Yeah, he just gets really mad. Meanwhile, Nagi's like, they're like, oh yeah. And that's when he says, you don't scare me anymore, genius. And he's like, you can't do anything unless Reo tells you to. Now, I'm like, Igarashi, if you just screwed them over and had it to where Nagi starts doing things on his own without listening to Reo. But here's the thing. I think that this is a very good point. It seems like Nagi just kind of relies on Reo because he doesn't even want to be there, or he doesn't really pay attention to the rules. He just is naturally talented, so he just does whatever Reo says. And Reo is good, but he's kind of like Isagi, where he needs somebody else to interact with him. So he is kind of dependent upon Nagi. So I honestly feel, as much as I love this ship and I want them to stay together, if their team and Team Z makes it to the second round, I feel like they're going to get split up. Because part of them becoming better strikers is going to be, can they stand on their own? And maybe they can, maybe they can't. But I don't know. I feel like that's what's going to happen. He says, without that genius, you're a master of none. And he's like, you bastard! It's like, oh my god! And that's so great because Reo is probably used to being very spoiled and getting his way, and he's used to being praised by everybody. So for the first time, Raichi just like gives it back to him, and he's like, excuse me? Hilarious. I love it. And so yeah. And that's when he elbows him, and Raichi's like, sucks to be you. Get frustrated. One more card and you're off. So, okay, if you get 2 yellow cards, you're kicked out of the game. Good to know. So then Chigiri comes in. The translations call them Missy, but I'm pretty sure Wim was talking about how, it was Wim or it was somebody else, was talking about how the translation is actually princess, the Oya, is actually more akin to princess in the Japanese. So I kind of would have liked Chigiri to be called princess, but Missy is fine, I guess. And then he does exactly that. He outruns Zantetsu. And I like that Ego says this is exactly what I'm talking about. An awakening can only happen in extreme situations. And it is kind of creepy that Ego the whole time is just looking up as he's drinking out of the coffee cup. And he's not taking his eyes off the screen. It's super creepy, right? But highly effective. Ego's like, I don't want to miss a thing. Girl, I would be getting all over Ego, but and his 6'3" tall self, but I don't know if he's gonna be with you, Henri. I want to see them interact more together. I want to see more Henri and Ego adventures. And I love the idea of how Chigiri manages to beat Zantetsu and gets the goal. He's like 30 minutes until the end of the match. Man, his eyes, you see poor Ego's eyes. He needs some sleep. The best striker in the world is... And I love that it's as he's saying that, Chigiri points around like, me! Right? And then the one that can dominate. And then that's when we see, like, you know, again, Isagi is just, like, vibrating over in the corner. He is vibrating out of his seat. And Nagi's just like, I don't get it. So, yeah. I'm very curious because Nagi, it's going to be interesting to see if Nagi, like, awakens, like, Team Z is, or if Reo is, or Zantetsu. That's going to be interesting. But right now, it doesn't seem to be the case. So then we get the additional time where we have the impersonation championship. And so Naruhaya, like, imitates Igarashi, which is, or is he doing Gagamaru? Yeah, he's doing Gin. Yeah, his eyes are huge. Yeah, so he imitates Gin. That's really cute. You have Immiura, and then Lemon too. And so Chigiri's like, what's going on? And they're like, it's a Who Am I contest. And so then we have Bachira imitating Cone is really hilarious. It works perfectly. And so they ask Chigiri to do it. And Chigiri's like, I don't know. And they make him, and then he does Ego perfectly. Hilarious. And they're like, we have a winner. And they just keep saying lock off over and over again. Oh my God. And they're like, we concede, Missy. So yeah, this is going to be a tooth and nail battle for sure. Going to be a tooth and nail competition. It's already 3-3. We have 30 minutes left. All the threes. I definitely think that Nagi and Reo, if they don't awaken in this game, I feel like they're going to afterwards. But I still think they're going to give Team Z a big run for their money. And they may still awaken, and it may still be a tough-ass game to call. But Isagi is the one who's not awakening at the moment, so we still have to find out what he's going to do. So that's going to be the question. What is Isagi going to do to help enable his team to win? That's what we've got to find out. But we shall see, right? We shall see. So I really loved this episode. Bachira, MVP, Chigiri popping off, Kunigami getting it, Reo and Nagi having like these interesting moments, Zantetsu being Brick from Anchorman. It was just a lot of fun, but what I'm really curious to know is your thoughts down below. I'm curious to know what y'all thought of this episode. Please no hints or clues or spoilers, but I'm really excited for the next episode already. I can't wait. But I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Blue Lock. Bye!